So, do I net any of my berry bushes? Well, the simple answer is no, but today I want to talk about why I don't do that and why you shouldn't be doing that, or how you don't need to do that when you're growing loads of berries. Most people think when you start growing loads of berries, they think they have to net them, otherwise the birds are going to take them all, which is definitely not true, and I've not experienced that, and I definitely don't have a shortage of birds in my garden or wildlife in general. And literally you don't get more wildlife than this. This is what I've experienced the last few days in this garden. I've had 2 deer, it's literally in the food forest, walking around and taking their fair share of food. They've actually nibbled a few of the tops of the currant bushes over there. And also we've had bunnies, I've seen for the first time. I saw 5 last night hopping around the food forest, and most growers would obviously think having bunnies or rabbits in your garden is an absolute nightmare. I've not experienced any problems. It's funny as well because they're actually living right next to my lettuce patch. There's no netting on the lettuce patch, and it's completely untouched. They've not even bothered to touch it, and that's not because it's toxic. It's just because there's so much food elsewhere. They don't need to go and eat all my lettuces. Why do I not net my berry bushes, and why do I not suffer from birds taking all my berries? Because I have a lot of birds, and I clearly still have an abundance of berries in my garden, and that is because of 2 reasons. One, I grow an abundance. It might sound obvious, but picture it like this. Say there is only one plant here that's really exposed, and it's got all my berries on it, all my eggs in one basket, and then I have loads of birds coming to the garden. Obviously there's going to be a lot of demand for these berries, and they're going to go quicker. You know, nature's going to actually go and eat them quicker. But when you have so many berry bushes growing berries at the same time, you really don't have to have the same scarcity mindset over the berries in your garden. Because I'm happy for birds to come in when they want, come in and out, get their fair share, and they'll usually just leave loads. Even though there is so many birds coming to take them, just because you're growing significantly more, there actually is always an abundance for you as well. This idea of actually getting an abundance is more of a mindset rather than an actual practical step. You want to have the feeling that you can have nature take part of your food for the benefits they bring elsewhere, and it's not this fear of holding on. Berries are one of the best things to attract wildlife to the garden. You know, you want birds in your garden because of the benefits they bring, and people are afraid of letting birds get in some berries. Every time I come to the food forest, I see birds flying away from the berry bushes. You know, they've been basically going out with berries dripping out of their mouths, and berries trailed on the floor. They've been having a lot of berries, and this is every single morning, right, when I come down. But there's still so many. I've been having so many berries from this garden, I can't even explain how many berries. Handfuls and handfuls and handfuls every morning, and I've been freezing big bowls full, like massive bowls full, and there's nothing there yet, but massive bowls full, simply because I'm just growing more. And you're probably thinking now, what if you don't have the space to grow more? Because obviously if you only have space for one plant, then what's the solution? Because if you only have one plant, you're going to have to net, otherwise you're going to lose all your berries. Well, this is where sort of the next thing comes into play, which is what I've experienced over there, another patch where I've got just a berry bush, overlapping gooseberries and more berries in between, some yellow raspberries in between, and that is literally growing in a more of a permaculture setting. If you only have a little bit of space, I would say scrap all the spacing guidelines and plant heavy and create more of a forest feel. Who's going around spacing the plants that drop in nature? You know, the plants that grow in nature, no one. So why do you need to go and space your plants, you know, to a metre? Otherwise, this is the thinking of the. Unfortunately, most people who start growing food, they think they have to do it in a very orderly way, and there has to be a perfect system. You can only grow it in this much space apart, otherwise it's going to suffer. I've grown a lot of plants in this garden with a lot less spacing than recommended. I've been growing potatoes in here, for example, underneath in the shade, everything like that, and I've not suffered any of the consequences they talk about where you don't get good production because there's not enough space and light getting to the plants. Because that's this idea again that you have to have everything in order and spaced apart. And it's not true. And it's the same idea with the berry bushes getting abundance. You want to have more in a small space to naturally get more berries and natural protection, like in a forest. But what was the other point? Yeah, the other point. This is a big thing. Requires a bit of knowledge, but a way also of beating the birds to the berries, because there is an element to beating the birds to the berries, and that is being tuned into your own senses and knowing when stuff is starting to get ripe in the garden. Because birds and nature is intelligent. You have to understand that they will be onto the berries, or they'll start picking the berries as soon as they are getting ripe. They won't get them when they're unripe. There'll be a plant here full of berries, and just as they start to turn black, these currants, the birds will think they are ready to start eating now. And that's when you can get in there, if you're tuned into your senses, you can see when they're actually getting ripe, or you can feel or taste, like if they're a bit softer, sweeter, whatever it is. And that's when you can then actually start your harvest. Say you're not paying attention to what's growing in the garden, or you're picking too early. Well, you wouldn't, that's a set point, you would never pick too early. Some people would. I won't name them, but I let somebody in the food forest last year, and I let them in the strawberry patch. And I said, I don't net the strawberries obviously, and I've never suffered a shortage of strawberries because of that. But I let this person in the strawberry patch, and I said, pick a strawberry and taste it, and take some home if you want, get a bowl of strawberries. And he went and picked a strawberry that was still white at the tip, or it was still slightly discoloured, wasn't deep red, and it wasn't soft. And I was thinking, right, I've let him pick my strawberries, and this is the disconnect. Most people, unfortunately, don't actually know when stuff is actually getting ripe and actually good to taste. I told him to taste it. I said to him, eat that berry and tell me what it tastes like. He eats it and says, it's not that sweet. It's not that sweet, it's a bit hard. And I said, yeah, it's because it's not ripe. And he was a bit confused, like, well, it was red on the thing. No, it wasn't ripe. I said to him, right, I'll get you a ripe berry now. I went and picked him a really big, juicy, deep red one that slipped off nicely. I said, taste this one and compare the difference. And for the first time, he learned what is a ripe berry and what is not a ripe berry, a strawberry. And that is the problem nowadays. People don't know when stuff is ripe because they're not tuned into the senses. And that's another example of these black currants here. Black currants, again, people think they taste bitter, they're sour, they're not very nice, but that is because they've not had a ripe black currant. If you pick one of these and it's ripe, and it's soft, and it's just a nice, ripe, juicy berry, these taste so sweet, and you can eat them without any additives or sweetness. I mean, these black currants are probably one of my favourite berries in the garden. So sweet and potent in the flavour. When I first started growing food, I didn't even like the taste of black currants because I'd never even tried a real black currant. I never picked a ripe black currant and actually got to experience the real flavour of one. Well, now, fortunately, I've got a lot to taste, a lot to harvest. Like I say, I don't want people to start netting all the berry bushes. I think it's just it looks horrible. The point of a garden is to make it look nice, and to when you go in, actually feel like this is amazing, creating some kind of haven where everything is flourishing, drawing all the wildlife, all the birds. And as soon as you start to net and defend off nature because you think it's going to improve your crop and your harvest, that's when you just interfere in the best part of the food forest, which is the wildlife and just the abundance. I'll go back to harvesting more later. This is the example I was talking about, the evidence of the deer. Look at that. That's the it's been through and nibbled the tops off some of the some of the currants, and it's actually also nibbled some of the ends of these branches. Some of these branches have sort of died back a bit. Funnily enough, it got the lower apples off the tree, but because these are still quite young, these trees yet, they're not fully producing. A lot of the fruit was unfortunately quite low, so I've lost a lot of the fruit in this area. I mean, my plum tree's got absolutely tons of plums on it, but the apple tree didn't do its best. Rabbits living in there, in the middle of all them raspberries. That's where it's living. This is the lettuce patch, and I've not netted it, and you can see there is a lot of lettuce there, and that is because there's just so much stuff around for it to eat. That includes the surrounding grass fields, by the way, but we've also got these to go off. Imagine this is the jostaberry bush. You can look under there, you can see all the jostaberries hanging down. I can just imagine the rabbit is going to go through, bunny's going to go through and get all these berries on the ground, innit? Enjoy munching on those. And that is part of the feeling of abundance, the effect of abundance. And that is abundance for everyone, not just for you, but for the wildlife as well.